A KH-9 hexagon spy satellite captured an anomaly at 4,500 meters in the Himalayas. Think about that for a moment. A structure in a place where nothing should be. The official analysis from the National Reconnaissance Office is simple: a geological formation, a trick of light and shadow. They want you to believe your eyes are lying. But declassified Soviet GRU files tell a different story. A file from 1948, codenamed Project Jalamatsya, describes the very same structure with chilling precision. The report was filed by an agent who interrogated a captured SS officer from the Ahnenerbe, the Nazis' occult research division. And this is where the story you think you know takes a sharp turn. The officer claimed the base was not built to launch submarines, but to receive them. Through a network of subterranean, water-filled caverns he claimed were connected directly to the Indian Ocean, a secret waterway hidden beneath a continent. The project allegedly involved over 10,000 forced laborers and German engineers, sworn to an unbreakable oath of secrecy. Imagine the sound, the constant grinding of machinery echoing through granite mountains 24 hours a day. The air so thin it makes you dizzy. The cold, a constant ache in your bones. According to the Soviet report, the base was operational by late 1944. It housed 3 experimental submarines, vessels that officially never existed. But why go to all this trouble? Why build a fortress at the top of the world for just 3 boats? The history books about World War II stop at the European theater. They never mention this part. The Ahnenerbe's interest in Tibet is well documented. And they sent an expedition in 1938, led by Ernst Schaefer. Officially, it was for zoological research. Unofficially, they were searching for something else. A power source, a lost technology they called Vril, a secret base, experimental submarines, a mythical power source. It sounds like fiction, except for one last detail in the agent's report, a detail so disturbing it was redacted by his own superiors. He claimed the Germans didn't discover the cavern system. It was already there, ancient, vast, and it wasn't empty. So, what was the real mission? The Germans didn't build the base to hide from the Allies. They built it because of what was already inside the mountain, a presence they feared far more than any army on Earth. To understand what that was, you first have to understand the man who sent his soldiers to find it. Heinrich Himmler. He was the architect of the Holocaust, a man responsible for the murder of millions. But he was also deeply obsessed with myth and the occult. He poured millions of Reichsmarks into an organization called the Ahnenerbe, his ancestral heritage society. Its public mission was to find archaeological proof of a superior Aryan race, a scientific fraud. Its real mission, however, was to find the weapons of the gods. And Himmler was convinced he knew where to look, at the roof of the world. And so, in 1938, he dispatched an expedition to Tibet. It was led by Ernst Schaefer, a gifted zoologist and a devoted SS officer. His team included an anthropologist named Bruno Beger. Officially, their mission was scientific. They cataloged thousands of plants and animals. They took detailed film, and they measured the skulls of Tibetan nomads. Yes, you heard that right. Beger believed he could prove the Tibetans were the last remnants of the original Aryan race by the dimensions of their heads. But the public reports were a smokescreen. The official records conveniently omit Schaefer's secret orders, signed by Himmler himself. They weren't just searching for birds or ancient relatives. They were looking for an entrance, a gateway to the mythical subterranean kingdom of Shambhala. The team returned to Germany in August 1939, just weeks before the invasion of Poland began. They brought back ancient texts and, more importantly, maps. These documents were immediately classified at the highest level, or accessible only to Himmler's inner circle. The story fed to the public was that they were priceless Buddhist scriptures. But intelligence intercepts from Britain's M116, declassified only in 2005, tell a different story. The maps didn't show mountain passes. They showed tunnels, vast, ancient, and impossibly deep. Here's the part nobody questions. Why did a zoological expedition need 3 of Germany's leading geologists and a specialist in subterranean excavation? The textbooks stop there. But the evidence suggests this is where the real project began. Based on Schaefer's findings, Himmler authorized Project Jalamatsia in 1941. The objective: return to Tibet, secure the entrance described in the maps, and establish a permanent research station. Think about what that means. The Third Reich is fighting a war on 2 fronts, and its second most powerful man is diverting immense resources to dig a hole at 4,500 meters. Over 10,000 forced laborers were shipped to the Himalayas. Their hands bled as they cut into the frozen rock, their lungs burning with every breath in the thin air. For a myth? Not to Himmler. They were hunting for vril, a limitless energy source described in a 19th century science fiction novel that the Nazi leadership believed to be fact. They saw it as a real physical power, the power that fueled Atlantis, the power that could give them unquestionable victory. The ancient cavern system wasn't just a place to hide submarines. The Ahnenerbe believed it was a conduit, a circulatory system for this planetary energy. And the presence that the captured SS officers spoke of, they saw it as the guardian, a lock on the door to ultimate power. This changes everything you think you know about the base. The 3 experimental submarines, the ones that officially never existed, were not escape craft. Declassified Soviet schematics, drawn from that same SS officer's interrogation, reveal their primary design. They weren't armed with torpedoes. They were fitted with massive sonic drilling heads and powerful magnetic containment fields. This wasn't a base for hiding. It was a platform for an assault. So the question we should be asking isn't what they were running from, but what exactly were they trying to break into? The answer isn't a place, it's a lock, a geological formation so ancient and dense no conventional drill could ever pierce it. And the 3 experimental submarines, they were the key. Forget everything you know about U-boats. These were not vessels of war. They were instruments of geological violence. The Soviet schematics, the ones drawn from the SS officer's memory, show a design that defies all 1940s naval engineering. The front of the craft wasn't a torpedo bay. It was a complex array of resonating discs and emitters. A sonic lance. The official designation for the technology was Schallkanone, a sound cannon. Publicly, it was a failed anti-aircraft weapon, but secret project files tell a very different story. And here is where it gets strange. On the mind behind this sonic drill was not a state-employed weapons engineer. He was an Austrian mystic and inventor named Victor Schauberger. Schauberger was a forester by trade. He believed water was a living entity, and that the universe operated on principles of implosion, not explosion. Mainstream science dismissed him as a crank. Think about that for a second. The Third Reich, at the height of its power, is basing its most secret project on the theories of a man who talked to rivers. Yet, SS internal accounting documents found in a Prague archive in 1998 showed direct payments to Schauberger from General Hans Kammler's Special Projects Group. The amount? Over 3 million Reichsmarks. Why pay a fortune to a naturalist to build a superweapon? Because Schauberger's theories weren't about brute force. And he didn't want to blast through the mountain. He wanted to persuade it to open. His device was designed to find the rock's unique resonant frequency and vibrate it into dust. It was elegant, it was terrifying, and it had to be tested. The location chosen was Lake Toplitz, a deep, dark alpine lake in Austria. In the winter of 1943, under the cover of a blizzard, one of the 3 prototypes was lowered into the water. The official story is that the Nazis sank counterfeit currency and gold in this lake. A convenient distraction. What they really sank was a weapon that could liquefy stone. The test logs for Toplitz Device A are chillingly brief. At 2:17, the device was activated at 20% power. The target was a granite shelf 80 meters below the surface. For the first 90 seconds, nothing happened. Then, the divers' communication lines went dead. Seismic sensors located 15 kilometers away in Bad Mitterndorf registered a tremor measuring 3.1 on the Richter scale. An earthquake from a sound machine. The test was an overwhelming success. The granite shelf was gone. But there was an unintended side effect, something the engineers had never predicted. For 2 hours after the test, the lake hummed. The water itself produced a low, sustained frequency, a resonance echo, and something else. Every fish within a 5-kilometer radius died instantly. Not from the vibration. The autopsy reports noted their blood had crystallized. Yes, you read that correctly. Crystallized. The sonic frequency didn't just break rock. It fundamentally altered organic matter. This is the part nobody ever talks about. Why was a geological drill designed with frequencies known to have profound biological effects? The official records stop there. They list the test as a success and the project as moving forward to the Himalayas. But one document is suspiciously missing: the full spectrum analysis of the resonance echo, the frequency the lake sang back at them. We hired an acoustic forensics team to reconstruct that missing data based on the seismic readings and Schauberger's own notes on harmonic resonance. The frequency they discovered is not random. It appears in nature, in one other place. The low-frequency communication signals used by blue whales to speak to each other across entire oceans. They weren't a drill, they were a tuning fork. A device not to break in, but to call out. The whole project, the 10,000 laborers, the base at 4,500 meters, it was all built to knock on a door. But the dark irony is this: they had no idea who or what would answer. They had no idea who or what would answer. The answer, when it came, was not a voice from the deep earth. It was a whisper from within their own ranks. From the men who built the machine. Because a project of this magnitude isn't just about steel and stone, it's about the souls you break to build it. And here's the part the official histories never touch: the human cost. Let's start with the inventor himself, Victor Schauberger. He wasn't a willing participant. In 1943, he was arrested by the Gestapo and given a choice: design weapons for General Hans Kammler, or be hanged. Think about what that means. You are a man who believes water is sacred, that nature is a living temple. And now you are forced to build a key to unlock a door that should never be opened. His private letters from this period, released by his family only in 2003, are filled with a quiet terror. He writes not of resonant frequencies, but of the constant humming he hears in his own mind, the sound of his creation, waiting, the pressure in his ears at 4,500 meters, a pressure that had nothing to do with altitude. While Schauberger wrestled with his conscience, others had none. Remember Bruno Beger, the anthropologist from the 1938 expedition? His work at the base was meticulous, cold. He continued his racial measurements, but now his subjects were the 10,000 forced laborers. His field notes, captured by the Soviets and stored in the GRU archives, contain thousands of data points: skull circumference, femur length, skin pigmentation. Not one of them contains a name. To him, these people were not human. They were simply variables in an equation for proving racial purity. You see the contrast. One man forced to betray his own soul, another who seems to have been born without one. But what about the people in the middle, the thousands of nameless workers who dug this impossible fortress from the ice? Imagine you are one of them. You wake up before the sun. The cold is a physical thing, a weight on your chest. Your lungs burn with every breath of the thin, freezing air. Your food is a thin soup, barely enough to keep you standing. And all day, for 14 hours, there is the sound. That low, penetrating hum from the test chamber. A sound that gets inside your bones. A sound that follows you into your dreams. You look up at the peaks of the Himalayas. They are not beautiful. They are the walls of your prison. You have lost your name. You have lost your family. All you have is the ache in your hands and the sound in your head. Most of these men worked until they collapsed, their bodies a footnote in a secret history. But not all of them went silently. We know this because of a single photograph smuggled out by a sympathetic German engineer who later defected. It's a blurry image of a support beam deep inside the submarine pen. And on it, almost invisible, is a carving, a message, left by a man who knew he would never leave that mountain alive. But he made sure his story would. But the message he left behind wasn't in words. It was a symbol carved into the frozen timber with a piece of sharpened rock. A simple spiral. You know this shape. It's in the arms of a galaxy, in the curve of a seashell, in the double helix of your own DNA. Archaeologists confirm it is one of the oldest symbols known to humanity, found in Neolithic tombs built over 5,000 years ago. Think about what that means. Surrounded by the machinery of total annihilation, a nameless man carves a sign for life, a quiet act of rebellion against an empire of straight lines. The project, of course, was never finished. As the Red Army closed on Berlin in April 1945, the order came down from a city in flames. Project Jalamatia was to be abandoned. The sonic drills were scuttled deep in the submarine pens, and the entrance was dynamited, sealed by thousands of tons of rock and ice. The mountain took back its silence. And the men who orchestrated this grand obsession? Their fates were as strange as the project itself. Victor Schauberger was held by American intelligence for nearly a year. His research was confiscated, his prototypes taken. He died in 1958, just 5 days after being forced to sign away the rights to all his work. He told his son they had stolen his soul. Bruno Beger, the race scientist, served only 3 years for his role in the Ahnenerbe's crimes. He lived a quiet life and died in 1991. And SS General Hans Kammler, the overseer of all secret weapons. He vanished. He walked out of the war and into thin air in May 1945. No body, no grave, nothing. So what remains? A blurry satellite image, a handful of declassified Soviet files, and a myth that refuses to die. But perhaps we have been asking the wrong questions all along. We obsess over the machine, the secret weapon, the supposed power source. We wonder what monster they were trying to awaken. But here's the part nobody considers. What if the humming wasn't a guardian to be defeated? What if the resonance echo from Lake Toplitz, the frequency of a blue whale, wasn't the sound of a threat, but the sound of the planet itself? A planetary heartbeat that has been there for billions of years. The Nazis heard this sound and saw a power to be harnessed, a weapon to be aimed. They built a fortress of concrete and steel to break it open. But the man with the bleeding hands, the one facing certain death, he heard the same deep hum, and he carved a spiral. Two different responses to the same great mystery, one of conquest, the other of connection. And so the final